The curse of the big club release clause has struck again, but it might lead to us signing a player we have been after for years. Hello and welcome to part 154 of It's Coming Home. I'm Kevin. Coming up on today's episode, we have an FA Cup third round tie against Wolves and we're at home against Southampton in the Premier League. But really, the reason to come back for this episode here is because the transfer window has picked up pace already. Just quickly recap, they're the results since the last episode. So things still going good. We've had our recovery that began after the 2 episodes ago, and we find ourselves here 13 points behind top of the table West Ham, 11 points behind second place Man City. We're not in a title race this year, but hopefully we should be able to negotiate our way back into the Champions League again. We've also had the Champions League knockout draw, which you'll see in tomorrow's episode, the first leg of that. We're playing against Hoffenheim, so feeling reasonably confident about moving on through the Champions League this season as well. I'm not expecting to win it this year. A few people, after the heroics of Sir Mick Powell and Sir Anthony Harris yesterday, were saying, if you get to the final this year, make sure you play them. We ain't getting to the final this year. But we'd like to think quarterfinals, maybe, depending on who we draw. Maybe even a run to the semi-finals would be fun. But unlikely. But as I mentioned in the intro, the transfer window has come. It's ruining us. So, Liam Thompson, who has been a key player since arriving only 18 months ago, we finally had our forever defensive midfielder, but of course he's got a £61 million release clause, which he won't sign a new contract. I do keep trying. Here's an example of a new contract. Because of breakdown in previous talks. Well, the breakdown in the previous talks was he wanted to go to Manchester United, and I said no. So it looks like he's going to Manchester United, which is a weird one. I know they're a bigger club than us. I mean, they're a 5-star reputation. I think we're 4-star reputation. So they are obviously a bigger club. But we're in the Champions League. They're in the Europa League. We won the league last year. They haven't won the league since 6 years ago. We're in a Champions League spot at the moment. They're not. Just feels like it's a move very much living in the past. But he's going. There's nothing we can do about it. Unless he turns down a contract, we can't change the fact that he's going to be going. But with the extra £45 million that the board threw at me that I was going to spend on 18-year-olds, and that money, we're finally able to have an offer accepted for Alexandre Alvim Alves, who, if you remember, is a player I've been trying to sign since he was back in Brazil. The amount of times I had a £14 million offer accepted for him when he was at Flamengo, and we just couldn't agree terms with him. He spent the last couple of years in China. We still regularly scout him. The last scout report was last summer, when he's still a 5-star defensive midfielder, better than Thompson, better than Jimenez. We should probably re-scout him. Oh, looks like we already are. Good work, past Kev, on getting the re-scout done before we confirm this deal. But we've had a £74 million offer accepted. He's agreed personal terms. We are just waiting. We're really waiting on Thompson. And if the Thompson deal goes through and Alves gets a work permit, which he should, he's played 8 times for Brazil. And plus, he's going to come in as the highest paid player at the club. The contract we're offering him is massive. So that deal will happen if Thompson leaves. If Thompson doesn't leave, then we cancel that deal and we carry on focusing on the youngsters. You can see Lerick Fernandez is coming back in the summer as well, just to keep our homegrown at-club players topped up. And then the other transfer news is that we have started to bring in some of these youngsters. This one, I've managed to already get wrong, because his date of birth, he was 18 when we agreed the deal. He's since turned 19 on Christmas Eve. He's still going to turn into a decent defender. 2.5-star current ability, 5-star potential, already made his debut for Serbia, already as good as Montero, who we spent millions on in the summer. We spent £19 million on him in the summer, and Juranovic is already as good as him. It could lead to the end for Cesar Sands if Juranovic progresses as well as he might be able to. If he adds another star onto his ability in the next year, Cesar Sands might be in his final days at the club, which would be a shame because he's been such a key player for so long, but has been a fringe player ever since Dianzi signed this time last year. But he's in, but isn't ever going to be homegrown at club. Clement Mercier is 18, so will eventually become homegrown at club. But I feel like I might have overspent a little bit on this lad. This was when I was panicking before we started scouting the youngsters properly. This one was arranged ages ago. He has been playing for Nice and scoring goals at a reasonable level. He's already almost as good as Rodriguez and Dragovic. He might one day be as good as Kano and Akamo. He's quick, but we paid over £10 million for him, and that's not really the kind of player we're looking to do with this policy. So the rest of the players that we're looking to bring in, and these are all kind of reliant, well, in fact most of them have already gone through. We've put the policy on hold temporarily while we wait and see what happens with Thompson and Alvarez, but we've got a bunch of 17-year-old defenders coming in the summer for reasonable prices, and we've obviously got Fernandes coming back. We've got a 16-year-old striker coming in 2 years' time, when presumably that's when he turns 18. Or have I made that mistake again? Is he going to arrive age 19? But he'll be in when he's 18 to start his progression towards being homegrown at club. And if Alves does fall through, we have this guy, Ricardo from Manchester City, who is another defensive midfielder. Not quite as good as Alves, but again, supposedly better than Thompson and Jimenez, so would be an upgrade. And he's only going to cost us 21 million, I think. Was it 21 million for him? Yeah, only 21 million for a player who went for £65 million when he signed for Manchester City from Schalke. So he's our backup if Alves falls through. But expect a whole... All right, computer shouting at me. The computer doesn't like Ricardo, but expect the defensive midfield merry-go-round to take place probably during this episode, unless it all gets drawn out throughout the transfer window, which sometimes these big deals do. But let's worry less about transfers, more about Wolves in the FA Cup, and try and negotiate our way through into the fourth round against the team that they're becoming the new Chester. They're our new big rivals because they're the team that are unlikely but are in that position. So it's us and Wolves with a new world order of the English Premier League. So we're going with Saidi in goal, a back four of Candemil, Dianzi, Sands and Mayer. Thompson possibly playing his last game for the club in defensive midfield. Jimenez and Kurti ahead of him. Chernyshov behind Akamo and Kano. Of course, if Thompson goes and both of the other defensive midfielders come through, Jimenez is he's naturally a defensive midfielder. It would be no hardship at all for him. I can't click on him for some reason. For him to drop back and play there. It is his natural position. But he's been so useful for us in central midfield. I don't really want to move him back. I want to keep him in central midfield. He's been so good for so long. Why are none of the buttons working? The buttons are not working properly, and I don't know why. One moment. Well, whatever was making the buttons not work wouldn't heal itself. I had to restart the entire game, but we are now back. I think I introduced the team for you. Let's just get into the Wolves game. If I was going somewhere, I apologise for never getting there. Chernyshov apparently not fully fit. It's another one of those situations where I'm recording this Monday morning. I last played the game Thursday afternoon. I don't remember why Chernyshov isn't fit or where Manu is. I could. One day I'll get into the habit of not picking the team before I finish for the week so that I can pick it before the game starts and I know what's going on. The only problem then is I'll not pick it and then assume that I have 3 days later because I'll forget I've made the decision not to, and I'll end up playing a ridiculous team for a big match and you'll all ruin me for it. So for the time being, this is the way things work. Dianzi's been turned there and didn't look very comfortable at all. I can turn quicker than that. That was ridiculous. But Mayer, with the throw-in, finds Kurti. Kurti back to Thompson, across to Sands, out to Mayer, knocking the ball around nicely. I like it when we play like this. Mayer, beautiful ball forward for Kano to chase. It does end up with Kano, and Kano gets his 13th goal of the season to put us 1-0 up. And commentary saying it was stupendous by Kano. The ball forward by Mayer was just the sort of ball forward that ruins us time and time again. Beautiful diagonal pass. Defender can't really deal with it. All he can do is head it straight up in the air or let it go out for a corner. He can't let Kano come in behind him. It was a good cross. Mayer has been sensational since he's arrived. He's scored a lot of very good goals. He's creating a lot of stuff. I was excited about Candemil last year, but I think Mayer has come in and just become the most exciting player that we've got, charging up and down that right-hand side. He's so quick, and he's got a proper shot on him. I think Mayer might get into double figures for goals this season in his first season in English football, which isn't bad for a young right-back. Is he young? I always forget how old he is. I think he actually might be about 25. 25. So not that young, but he has just made his debut for Argentina. That's probably why he's come in as a finished article, because he wasn't super young. Right, don't get complacent out there. Here we go. Let's look at the pathetic attendance we've got. Wolves, we talked about it a few minutes ago. Wolves are our big rivals. They were the team that pushed us all the way, or we pushed them all the way, to the point where we pushed them out of the title picture last year. But this was last year's Premier League title battle. We're third and fourth in the Premier League this year. It's the FA Cup third round. Everyone likes the FA Cup third round, and we can only get 13,000 people to come and watch. We need to move back to home. Goodness me, this Milton Keynes nonsense is not doing anyone any favours. But I mean, I don't know what year is it now, 2036. I think the Serenik Nuhu Stadium was built in 2021, so we've got at least another 5 years in Milton Keynes, and judging by how well things are going, Kano just puts us 2-0 up. I think the save's going to be done before we get the opportunity to leave Milton Keynes, which is very sad. I know a lot of people say, Kev, can't you just go in the editor and make it so that you can leave? No, because the editor's disabled on the save. I can't use the editor because, you know, if you have the editor enabled, everyone's going to accuse you of cheating, even if you aren't. So it's just one of those things. I'll always have the editor disabled. So we're just going to have to accept it. If I ever do create a club again, I'll give them a ground that's expandable at the start. I think the biggest mistake we made was making Homewood have a capacity of 636 with no expansion capacity. Obviously, it was for realism purposes. You saw in that first video. That's poor from Saidi. You saw in the first video that there would be no way to expand Homewood, the actual place. But going for realism and the gag of playing it on the village green has cost us now 15, 18 years in the future, where because we had our ground upgrade when we were still in non-league, we can't have another one, which is rubbish. Right, Bishop is going to come on for Jimenez in midfield. Switch him up to be the deep line playmaker as normal, which means Curti can go back to being Mazzala. Where is Manu? I don't know. Manu must be injured. That's the only reason he wouldn't be on the bench for this game. Let's get Dean Morris on in midfield. He wants to be, I mean, theoretically he can play as a central midfielder now, but he's not great at it. We'll leave him as the Mazzala. Tottenham and England will try and convince you that he became a central midfielder, but in reality he was always the same player we had way back when, who could only play at defensive midfield. Akemo's picked up a knock there, so we'll just bring Rodriguez on straight away. We don't need to be risking players in the FA Cup. As much as it would be nice to get another win over Wolves, I don't care about the FA Cup. It would be nice at the end of my career to look back on it and say we won it at some point, and if that ends up being this year, that would be lovely. If we can qualify for the Champions League again, get to the quarterfinals of the Champions League and win the FA Cup, that would be a lovely season. But I'm not going to risk a player to try and do it. But we have beaten Wolves there, which is splendid. We've now got Southampton in 4 days' time, and the question will be who will be playing for us at defensive midfield in that game. Akemo's just got a tight groin. Splendid. Well, I told you in yesterday's episode that it would probably be the last time you ever see Sir Mick Powell and Sir Anthony Harris together. I think we've just had confirmation through from two different directions. Sir Mick Powell has asked for a transfer. He's double concerned, wants a new challenge because he's achieved everything he can at the club. Well, he did just score in the Champions League. That's about as true as it's ever been. And also he does need to leave for first team football. We have offered him out. No one wants him. But also he's 34 now, and there's still, on the transfer list at his own request, it's very sad. But there's still no indication that he's going to be looking to become a staff member when he's done. So I think Mick Powell might not be with us once his contract ends. He did sign a new contract fairly recently. He's got 2 more years, so that takes him until he's 36, and I think then he might retire. But Sir Anthony Harris, the other part of the partnership, has broken his leg. As you can see, he's got red leg and a bit of purple leg in there as well. So how has he got 2 different leg injuries? I don't understand. Oh, it's a recurring injury. So he has a recurring injury that, does it actually explain what that is? I don't know, but he's broken his leg anyway. He, however, is interested in becoming a coach. We had the conversation. We can talk to him about teammate happiness as well. Oh, we can get him to talk to Sir Mick Powell. Hold on. Have a talk to your mate. Good work, Sir Anthony. But he is potentially going to become a coach. He said he was interested. We tried to send him on a coaching course and the board wouldn't let me. But he turns 34 in the summer. And, I mean, a broken leg at his age with the amount of football he's played in the last year, I've seen players retire off the back of that. And I'm hoping we can make him a coach if it does happen. Dean Morris, also unavailable because he's got the flu. So the whole golden generation has just disappeared in one go. There's no other transfer news though. It's only been 4 days. Thompson's still here. We haven't brought in a new defensive midfielder, so we've kind of just sat in limbo. You'll find out how that story resolves in tomorrow's video. We have made a couple of changes for this match. So Lee comes back in for Sands. Manu, who was fit, I don't know why he wasn't on the bench for the last game. He might have been suspended. I didn't check. Manu comes in for Chernyshov, who drops back down to the bench. Rodriguez comes in for Akamo, who did pick up a knock in the last game. He is fit enough to play, but let's just play Rodriguez instead. Why not? Get some game time into him. People have been suggesting that Rodriguez might be the man who goes on to be our next big 20-goal-a-season striker, along with Kano and Akamo. So time to give him a little bit of an opportunity when the chance presents itself. Yeah, we should be winning this game with no problems at all. Southampton signed one of our Patreon youngsters years ago, didn't they? We should probably check in on him. And see, in fact, I'm going to do it right now because he's not in their team. So if we have a look at their transfer history, because I'll forget to do it in the summer. It's back to when we were sort of in the Championship. They bought a player from us. There he is, Yancey La Rochelle Williams, who is now playing for Falkirk, age 23. Oh, he is there on a free transfer. So they loaned him out everywhere. So he was our record sale for a little while. There you go. He's played nearly 200 games, now playing in Scotland. Well, that answers that question. They've got Cheraldini up front for them as well. What a fall from grace for him. Was playing in the Champions League against us last... No, it wasn't the Champions League, was it? The Europa League against us last year. Now playing for Southampton, mid-table in the Premier League. Well, things haven't worked out very well for him, have they? They've got Grassi in their team as well. Thompson with a crunching tackle on Grassi. Someone did mention in the chat, not in the chat, in the comments the other day, that Cheraldini was one of the top scorers in the Premier League. So he's obviously doing quite well for Southampton as well, and will probably score against us today because we've drawn attention to him. That's why I was very careful not to click on his name, because that would then guarantee a goal. But the fact we've noticed him, the game, as we know, is listening. So that's probably enough to cause a Grassi cross for a Cheraldini goal, and they'll all celebrate like they've won the World Cup, which, I mean, that's handy, isn't it? Drilling next door now. Don't realise I'm masterminding a Champions League win in here. Goodness me. Jimenez with the cross. Kano's there. Was he onside? We've gone back to the referee. It looked a bit offside, so when we go into the little telly, I think it's been disallowed. But it was a solid finish from Kano. But yeah, he was well offside. I hope you can't hear the drilling. If you can, I apologise. Bear in mind, you all tell me when the ice cream man's going by, so chances are you probably can hear the drilling. We're nearly done. We'll be fine. I'm yelling that really loud, so they think, oh, he's nearly done. I'll just hold off on the drilling for a minute. No, it sounds like you're drilling into the wall that separates us. Hideous. Absolutely hideous. Right, Manu charging through, plays it back to Rodriguez. Rodriguez out to Mayer. I want to see one of... After talking about Mayer's goals earlier in the video, I want Mayer to score a screamer again, but as it is, he's having to chase back, and I think he's just got himself sent off. No, he hasn't. Usually when it focuses on a late challenge like that, it's because somebody's getting a card. Mayer's been the best player on the pitch, though. charging up and down that right-hand side again. And here he is with a free kick from deep. Finds Jimenez to Manu. Maya's got himself in space again on the right-hand side, but Candemill is in just as much space on this side. Plops it into the path of Kano, and he gets his 15th goal of the season. Candemill was actually subject of a £40 million offer from Real Madrid a couple of days ago. We turned it down instantly, and as a sign of how we've advanced as a club in recent years, Candemill didn't even bat an eyelid. Oh, £40 million from Real Madrid, you turn that down? Whatever. I'm happy at home. Wonderful stuff. But he doesn't have a release clause, unlike Thompson. So, fingers crossed, if we can turn down an offer from Real Madrid and the board are happy because we're still making a profit each year, there shouldn't be a circumstance where the Candemill deal is going to get forced through. Right, we'll bring a Camo on because Rodriguez hasn't been any good. Curti can come off as well for Bishop. I guess there is an argument Dragovic could have come on there, but I think I'm close to being done with Dragovic. We've got that young French striker that we've just brought in who is going to force his way into the team soon. He's going to be a homegrown player at the end of his 3 years, so it makes sense to get him in and around the squad to help him develop. Dragovic, that little bit older, never really established himself as a regular starter. So I think Dragovic is done. A Camo now with his 15th goal of the season and 100th goal of his career. It's just, you've got the exact same goal this time scored on the other side, out to our other excellent fullback, who just puts it into the path of a Camo. A Camo and Kano now have 30 goals between them this season, and it's only January. They have formed a proper partnership. Las Palmas must look on at the two of them tearing up the Premier League and wonder how different their world would be if they'd have been able to keep them. Right, Thompson can come off. Sands to come on for him? That doesn't make much sense. Move Dianzi forward. No. I wanted to just give him as much as he's leaving when he probably shouldn't, a standing ovation. But no, we'll just take Manu off instead. I'm not going to risk messing up the system. We will drop a little bit of praise to try and stop the guaranteed Cheraldini goal that's coming. I think it's probably coming here. Saïdi's there to just collect that up. Cheraldini was inspired by my team talk, presumably, because he was the only player on their team who was inspired. So it's probably nothing their manager did. He must have heard me praising Home and forgot which team he was playing for, which is weird because he's played more minutes at Stadium MK today than he did the whole of last season when he was on loan here. And there's a goal, not by either of the players with the Home link. So, fingers crossed, neither of them score. That noise. Goodness me, what could they possibly be drilling? It's 20 past 10 on a Monday morning. Who drills at 20 past 10 on a Monday morning? Right, Lee plays it across to Dianzi. All the way back to Saidi. To Lee again. Just keep hold of the ball. That's what we want. Maya now. Here's his opportunity to score a screamer. In fact, plays it into the path of Kano, and Kano just wide. Got himself into a lovely position there, and it was a great cross again from Maya. And here we are. Last move of the game. Candemill intercepts. If Cheraldini scores here, I'm going to vomit all over the keyboard. Luckily, he didn't, because all I've had today is frosted wheats. And I don't know if it's possible to vomit up frosted wheats. They're too fibrous. But that is that. Maya drives home forward. Another excellent performance from him. And we will be back tomorrow, hopefully without any drilling. And we'll be playing Hoffenheim in the first knockout round, first leg of the Champions League. Probably with the West Ham game as well, because West Ham are top of the league. So that's also a really big game. And plus, of course, with transfer news as well, we'll know what happens in the Thompson-Alves situation. I'd suggest Thompson probably leaves and Alves comes in. But if Thompson decides to stay, he immediately becomes a home legend for turning down Manchester United when he could have gone. That would be amazing if he did that. So we will wrap things up there. If you have enjoyed it, please make sure you leave a nice big thumbs up on there for me. Subscribe to the channel for daily Football Manager videos, sometimes with drilling. And thank you very much for watching.